And so I think those are two important things, remembering that, no matter what happens with your diagnosis, your treatment, your experience, like, you are in charge. This is your life.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to Rapid Wednesday, a conversation series where we celebrate female entrepreneurs and their inspiring stories. I'm Paola, founder of Fanm Djanm. We make beautiful head wraps and hair accessories for every occasion and everybody. Each month, we sit down with an incredible woman from our community and we talk about their work, their passions, and what drives them. Join us as we connect and uplift each other.
We're very excited to sit with you here today, Simone.
I'm excited to be here.
Please introduce yourself.
Oh, summer.
Please.
Hi, I'm Simone Monique Barnes, and I am the founder of the brand new, oh my goodness, soon to be available in this store, Wrap Your Head Around Cancer project. And so I'm so excited. It's been something that I've been thinking about for several years, so it's nice for it to come to fruition and supporting cancer survivors, cancer thrivers, and co-survivors who look like me. So I'm excited about that.
That is exciting. I am very familiar with keeping something in your mind or in your head for years and then finally acting and making it happen. So tell us why you started Wrap Your Mind Around Cancer.
Well, it's a play on words. I just celebrated my 5-year cancerversary of completing cancer treatment, so I'm very excited. It's a huge milestone, and when you get a cancer diagnosis, or when someone in your life gets a cancer diagnosis, it's a hard thing to wrap your mind around, right? It's like, it exists, but when it's really hitting you and it comes close to home, it's really, there's just a lot of information, a lot of facts, a lot of decisions, a lot of impact, and you have to wrap your mind around it in a pretty rapid time frame. And so for me, some of those decisions that came up and how this kind of project kind of came to fruition is that I'm a triple negative cancer survivor, which is one of the VIP diagnoses of the breast cancer world. And we go through what I call like the full triathlon. So I had to do chemo, I had to do surgery, I had to have radiation. And in that, those early weeks and days when your medical team is kind of preparing you for all the things that you're about to undergo. And one of the things was that my medical team was like, hey, this particular type of chemotherapy, you are going to lose your hair. That's not a maybe. You're definitely, it's more about whether or not it's going to be a couple days or a couple weeks, but be prepared for that. And in the preparation, one of the advice was, hey, you might want to think about what you want to do about your hair so that you're prepared, because when you have no hair and you walk around in public, people are going to ask you questions, and you need to be prepared for that. And so you should shop for a wig. You should get a wig, and here's some catalogs, and there's even free wigs and places you can go. And I was like, I don't think that's the avenue I'm going to go. And it was like, no. Really, you need to get a wig now so that you're prepared, because when you lose your hair, seriously, when you're outside bald, people are going to ask you questions. And I'm looking at these catalogs with long, straight, blonde hair, and just catalogs of wigs in general. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that if I get a wig, people who do know me are going to ask me even more questions, right? I was just like, yeah, that's not going to happen. And I remember my medical team, who I love, but just didn't get it, right? At the time, I had short natural hair, and I was just like, for me to go from a short natural to I'm wearing a wig, signals a big change. Mm-hmm. But also, it wasn't culturally relevant to her. I'm like, I wear natural hair. Mm-hmm. My mother had natural hair, braids and afros and curly fros and locks. Like, that's much more my aesthetic. And they just couldn't see that. And so I remember when I went through treatment and just a lot of the experiences where, as a Black woman, as a Black person, we are very much like the cover models of the family of diseases of cancer, right? Every single binder you get, every single website, every single appointment, every single thing, you are reminded of the high recurrence rates, the high mortality rates, right? It is in your face whether you want to know that information or not. It is very much prevalent. And I also knew on a personal level, my mother died of breast cancer. So I know those aren't just statistics, you know, they were very real. But yet I felt like, you know, I didn't feel like the cover model. I didn't feel like I was getting a VIP treatment, right? Mm-hmm. From the things that were supposed to make me feel better, like, here's this gift bag of makeup that was not my color. Mm-hmm. From the catalog of wigs that were supposed to make me feel better about, you know, the physical effects of cancer, weren't making me feel better. So I was just like, why is it that I'm this cover model? Why am I like, you know, I see myself reflected in every single website, every single statistic, and yet a lot of the things that are supposed to make me feel better were not there for people who look like me. And so I remember almost hilariously, when I was finishing chemotherapy, I was like, as God is my witness, one day in the welcome bags there will be head wraps and shea butter. You know, and so that's how that came to be. It was that I was just like, I wanted other people who were in my situation, who were feeling overwhelmed, who were being hit with all these statistics, all this stuff, to have a moment to say, hey, mm-hmm. we got you. And when you were wrapping my head and just now, I think that's the feeling that I wanted to have. I wanted, when I was getting bombarded with all of this information, all these decisions, I wanted a moment where I could just sit mm-hmm. and be like, somebody's got me, somebody sees me. And somebody's helping me be like, hey, we're gonna get through this moment. We may not, you know, you don't have to be here for every single moment.
Right.
Right? But in this moment,
right.
I feel seen, I feel felt. And so that's all I can say. That's my very long answer to your very short question.
We like a very long answer. And you've said a few things. It's your 5-year anniversary, which congratulations. And you also said that your mother also passed away from breast cancer. So you received this news and you know it's part of your family already. I kind of want to go back and kind of understand how quickly things were happening. You said they were happening very quickly. Is it a matter of weeks you had to make those decisions, a matter of months? How did that happen? Because it sounds like you had a really severe case of, was it breast cancer?
I had breast mm-hmm. cancer, and triple negative it's a very aggressive form of breast cancer. But I think anyone who gets diagnosed with cancer, right. there's a lot of decisions that happen very quickly, right? So I remember even when I had gotten some of my news, one of the staff was like, things are gonna go very slow and then they go very quickly. And so you go from, okay, I did this test or this information or something, to you've gotta make decisions about who your team is, right? Who's your oncologist, and it's not just one doctor, right? Okay, who's your oncologist? Who's your radiation oncologist? Are you having surgery? What type of surgery? Where are you gonna have surgery? Are you having reconstruction? Are you there's just, it just keeps going and going and going. Your diagnostic test, it's just this, so you go from, I've had one appointment to like, okay, I'm trying to schedule 3 and 4 things in one day. And you know, cancer can be, and most often is life-threatening. So it's not one of those things where you decide, you know, I'm thinking about cutting my hair, but maybe I'll do it this month or maybe next month. You know, these decisions have to be made pretty soon, and it's a lot of information to take in. You know, and you know, every decision you make has an impact, right? Your decision of which medical team, your decision of what treatment plan. Are you in agreement with the treatment? Do you understand your treatment plan? Do you understand the side effects of your treatment plan? Do you understand the decisions, the side effects of the side effects that are going to impact the other side effects? You know, there's just a lot of decisions. Are you going to go to a doctor's office close to your home? Are you going to go to one that's further away? How does that, all those decisions, what are you going to do
And
about
the
your job?
frequency of those visits and all those different things.
And it just keeps going.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. And
Okay.
so, like I said, to just even in its simplest, the word cancer is a pretty loaded
It is.
word, right?
Absolutely.
It's a lot. Yeah, and so that, like I said, for me, that was about what all this was about. It was about
Feeling seen.
feeling heard, having my friends and my family feel seen and feel heard, right? Because there's a term, co-survivor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't just go through this by yourself, right? You're making decisions that impact you, but also impact others around you. The impact, if you're, especially if you're a young survivor, someone who's diagnosed under the age of 45, it impacts, you're probably still working. It
Right.
impacts your job. It impacts your coworkers. So it impacts a lot. Yeah.
Okay. And wrap your head around cancer, a play of words, is meant to not necessarily fill up the void, but it's kind of like create these little moments for you to kind of like keep going, give you hopes. Like if you receive something where you're, let's say you can actually use it versus not, then you feel a little better for the time being, and you're not just providing those items or the kit like you've mentioned, and you're fundraising. You're also providing workshops, and you're providing basically a community. Is that correct?
A community and also access to information and resources, right? So as I mentioned, you go through a lot where you're trying to process a lot of information. You're trying to figure out what's vetted information, right? Like there's a million websites. I don't even know which one to start with. Or there's a million websites and they're all great, but which one is worth my time and energy and going through whatever process they have there. So it's about building community. It's about pulling together even just all the resources that are existing, because you don't know what you know, right? And so it's easier to do things when you're not in this heightened state of, I've got to make this decision right now, right? Versus somebody like those of us maybe in this room right now, oh, I have time to go through this website. I have time to do this. When you're in it, right? You want that information right now. But also, I think one of the biggest pieces for me, which is why I wanted to take my time in developing the project, was that it wasn't just about finding resources, it was also about finding the community, right? It's very intentional for me to be here today, right? Because you, as a vendor, who looks like me, who has staff that looks like me, who has clientele that looks like me, right? Those statistics all of a sudden become real, right? One of us in this room will probably be impacted by cancer or have someone in our family, right? And so you're also a part of that community that might need this information and stuff. They're also a soft landing place, right? If someone's coming in here and they're feeling vulnerable and they're like, yeah, I really want to get a head wrap, but I've never done that before, walking into a space where you as the vendor have even given some thought to what that feels like, but also knowing like when that person comes to the door, like, we got you.
Right.
And I know what you're supposed to feel like when you walk out this door, and we're not going to let you leave here until you feel like your crown's been adjusted a little bit. And so that's also a very intentional part of the project, is making sure that that vendors who are Black, who are BIPOC, who support and affirm the community and are part of the community are also part of this conversation.
So what advice would you give to someone going through this right now as you're building this new platform, and as we're waiting for it to happen, as someone who's gone through all of the emotions, when you first hear it to, finding a solution for some of the difficult parts of it, what advice would you give to someone right now going through this very difficult journey?
I think, a couple of things come to mind. I know for me, a shift was when I realized that I am the captain of this ship, right? And so that, because I think a lot of times, I think for all people, but particularly in our community where our relationship with medical providers can ebb and flow, and historically there's been a lot of mistrust, and so you feel very vulnerable, right? And you're like, I just need your help. And then I had to shift and be like, wait a minute, I'm in charge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm the captain. All of y'all are being interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you make the team. I want you on the crew. But you're every single doctor, every single nurse, every single healthcare provider, like you are in charge. This is your team. And so building a team of people that you trust. You don't have to love and like all of them, but you gotta trust them, right? Because you want a team of people that when the questions are very real and the answers are very real, like you can trust that decision, you can trust that you feel seen. So that's number one. And then I think also having your support of people that surround you that also see and feel you. And I think that's a big part of also how this project happened. When I lost all my hair, and I, having short hair was not it, but even that, like not having control, right? Like I didn't cut it; it was just gone one day. And I remember a friend of mine who's Asian, South Asian. She and I went on a trip. We had a previously scheduled trip to New Orleans, and I was like, I'm not canceling my trip, right? I was like, I'll just be tired, but we going. And I remember that trip, she looked at me and she said, you know what? You need bigger earrings, and we need to get you some red lipstick. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. And so we went to a makeup store in New Orleans, and the makeup artist that was at the store was like, huh, yeah, no, she needs some purple lipstick too. Okay, like there was a whole intervention, right? And by the time I left that trip, me and my bald head with my big earrings, I had purple lipstick, black lipstick, right? But I walked different when I left, right?
Yeah.
And that was because my friend saw me, right? So she saw me, and she saw what, that I had to get up every day and try to hold my head up. And she was like, this is what you need, right? So surrounding yourself by people who see you and know you and remember you and are like, hey, okay, yeah,
right.
we're going to get you to the other side. We're going to get you through this moment today.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think those are two important things, remembering that, no matter what happens with your diagnosis, your treatment, your experience, like you are in charge, this is your life.
Mm-hmm.
And then making sure that the team of people, both from your medical and health providers, but also like the supportive people who are in your journey. And some of them are going to be people who you expect.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are going to be people that you're like, I didn't see that one coming, right? But allowing them to support you is so important, because it's a long experience. It's a hard experience, but it's an experience that can be yours, and you don't have to lose yourself in the process.
You don't have to lose yourself in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you decided right away, or that just kind of came as you were living with it?
I think, I was blessed in having parents who instilled, really great self-esteem and core values. And so I knew that, but it also can be times where you're feeling vulnerable. Your relationship with your body shifts. Your relationship with yourself shifts. I'm an extrovert, and then suddenly I was like, I'm now an introvert who's got to stay in the house all the time. So I think it's a yes and. I think it's I was pretty confident in who I was, but there were also times where I could look at somebody and be like, I'm not quite sure who I am right now, and I need you to remind me who I am, and be like, yeah, the red lipstick. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that one of your happiest memories?
Is that? Who doesn't have great memories in New Orleans?
It is a great place.
But it was, that trip was magical, and that was definitely a knowing myself. My friend of mine, like I said, we had gotten some really great sale tickets, and then who knew that months later I was going to get diagnosed with cancer. And I remember my doctor was like, you might want to postpone that trip, and I was like, no, I'm going. And she was like, well, but you're going to be tired. I was like, I'm going to be tired on Bourbon Street. And granted, the highlight, like I was napping for most of the day.
Yeah.
We went going out to get lipstick and getting dinner was like the highlight of the day.
So you lived a pretty busy life before you got diagnosed. You were always, traveling which is a huge shift. But
I think like I said, and that's neat. But I think anyone who goes through a cancer diagnosis, like it is a huge shift. Mm-hmm. It is a huge adjustment.
Yeah.
And figuring things out, and it also affords you, like I got to tell you, it's a club that none of us wanted to be in. But once you're in the club, like there's some amazing humans that have been diagnosed with cancer and that go through this experience. Like, and would I give up having cancer? Of course. But that's not my story. That's not my journey. And so I'm extremely appreciative of just the amazing people that I've met that I would have never met had I not gone through this experience. Yeah.
Okay. So your first skit, what's in there?
My first kit.
Yes.
Well,
you said head wraps and shea butter.
That was my and the shea butter joke was because I remember some of the medicine in my hand. So I had some nerve damage, and so you start noticing things. I was like, my hands feel chapped, but I know they're not. And I remember one of my doctors said they were like, are you putting on lotion at least once a day? And I was like, you clearly don't have a lot of Black friends, right? And we laughed about it because I was like, yeah, no, we shave, but that's what we do on a daily basis all day. I was like, you can have anybody in that waiting room right now. They'll all pull out their bottles of lotion, right? So things like that. So things like head wraps or hats and of their choosing. Mm-hmm. Things like water bottles, because you got to stay hydrated. Oh my God, you got to drink a lot of water throughout treatment. And things like just, like I said, like the resources, just knowing where to get information, knowing where to feel connected, or those words of affirmation that make you sit up a little bit stronger, a little bit taller, a little bit stronger. Those kind of things.
As this project is evolving, mm-hmm. I'm interested in learning about the woman behind it. Is it where are you from? What you know what I mean? And I read your article, you're on Medium, your blog post. You're a writer. I want to hear more about some of your other endeavors.
So yes, I think writing was a big part. Has always been a big part of, and creativity and the arts are a big part of my life. I'm also very community minded, and to tell the truth, I mean, am I a different person having gone through the breast cancer experience? Of course, but I'm still very much Simone. I'm very much a people person. Mm-hmm. I grew up in New York City. I've lived in Austin for I think about 11 years or so. Both my parents are half American and half Caribbean, and so some of that also comes across in some of the ways that I move through the world. I like to think of it as I have a little touch of northern invincibility and southern gentility and island audacity.
Ooh.
So that, I think that pretty much sums up a little bit of who I am and who I've always been. I think the difference, the shift that happened with breast cancer is that, being vulnerable, mm-hmm. learning, having to rely on others for some help, when you're in a situation where like, I literally can't, I used to have to ask my neighbor to open up Ziploc bags because I couldn't open up I didn't have enough strength to open a Ziploc bag. That's a very humbling thing to have to go to your neighbor like, okay, are you home? It's 3:30. Are you home with your kids? Can you open up on my water bottles and my Ziploc bags? So I think that's been a shift of really understanding community. I think slowing down a bit. Like I know you can't do 20 things all in one day. Sometimes you get prioritizing. But I think the other part though is that I think during a cancer diagnosis, a lot of times people feel like their life is supposed to stop. And I think what I learned is that you have to make those good memories along the way, and you have to continue being yourself. And so taking the trip, right? The trip might look differently, right? Like certainly before, like if I had gone on that trip to New Orleans before cancer, I probably would have been like, all right, we're up at 7 a.m. and we're doing all the things and whatever. Instead, we were like, I'm eating oatmeal and watching TV. This is great. And, you know, but, you know, I certainly kept a part of myself, or, you know, through that whole experience. I think making good memories, taking great photos, taking photos of the good times, the bad times, and all of the looks in between. And then, you know, and just, you know, celebrating those milestones. And so I celebrate that I've hit the milestone of 5 years, right? Because, you know, my story, I'm lucky that I'm one of the ones who has what we call no evidence of disease, or I like to call it no shark sightings at the beach, because we know that sharks still live in the ocean. And so the lifeguards, the Coast Guard still have to keep looking every single day. And any minute you can get that call that says, hey, there's a shark sighting at the beach. But even if I was an Ivy Leaguer, or what they call triple stage 4, someone who's, or metastatic, someone whose cancer has spread, and they know that this is something that they're going to have to fight and live with indefinitely for the rest of their life. You still got to have those you still celebrate those milestones, right? You still celebrate, you know, those anniversaries. You still celebrate being here, and you still make good memories, right? It's not a, oh, if I don't have cancer, then I can celebrate. It's like, you got to celebrate and make, create your life.
Absolutely.
Every single day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So for your project, no one can do such a big project like this alone. I imagine something like this, even if you're starting small, you'll eventually need partners. You'll eventually need to branch out. So to start out with, what kind of partners are you looking for? Because when you're creating resources for people, and you're creating all of these other aspects of that will wrap your head around cancer successful, you'll need
That's a good question. And actually, so the project started where I was just gonna have like a couple of friends. I was like, hey, we'll just get together, and whatever we collect or raise, we'll make some cute little kits and give them out, and hey. And a number of friends challenged me on that. They were like, no, I think you should do it, and do it well, and do it for real, and really, let's not just make this a cute little thing. Like, let's really make an impact. And so I kind of took that to heart. I was like, no, but I just wanted to have a couple friends over at the living room, and, you know. And so I started with some friends who have similar companies who make head wraps or bandanas or things like that. And so started challenging me on, like, what kind of vendors are you going to use? Or I was like, that's a good point. So yeah, we should look for vendors who sell the kind of products that I wish I had gotten in my kits, right? So vendors like that, nonprofits. I didn't want to go and reinvent the wheel, because I think that was one of the challenges that I had. Hi, sweetie.
Hi, Zoe.
I've learned during the pandemic, you just have to say hello to your coworkers.
Yes.
your coworkers who are under the age of 12. But nonprofits. So that was one of the challenges that I had when I was diagnosed and needing resources, is that I would find some amazing resource that somebody started 10 years ago, 7 years ago, 5 years ago, and then they hadn't done anything for several years. And it was like, well, I was going to apply for that, but that doesn't, I was going to ask for that program, but it stopped. And so I was like, why not just create some type of clearinghouse that shows, like, here's all these amazing, thriving nonprofits that are doing great work. Let's just,
Putting
sometimes you, like,
right.
So let's just have a vetted list.
Right.
To say, hey, instead
like a curated directory almost.
And saying, you know, so those kind of things, like having a vetted list of resources. And so that started some of the things that we were building for the past couple of months, is like really being like, okay, let's go through what was the organization that helped you pay your light bill? What was the organization that gave you that gift card that was really helpful? What was that support group where you felt very seen, right? So coming up with those lists of resources, that's a huge thing, right? And because certainly one person can't build a giant database of vetted information. So that's been a really helpful thing. Some of the nonprofits that are in town that are supporting cancer survivors, right? Some of them do really amazing work, but they may not be reaching certain communities. And some of them that are reaching certain communities don't have the reach, don't have the bandwidth to get the word out. And so finding some of those nonprofit partners. And then, like I said, finding companies that I know when somebody walks in the door, whether they're there for a Wrap Your Head Around Cancer event or they're coming on their own, I know that when they walk in the door, they're gonna feel, a certain way when they leave there, instead of walking in and feeling really unsure that they're gonna be seen. So those are some of the ways.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. So where can we find you? How can we support?
There's a number of ways. So one, you can go on our website, wrapyourheadaroundcancer.com, and that's the portal where there will be lots of information. You can find out. There's already a list of some resources. If you have resources that are not on the list that you think should be, you can add to that. You can donate to the project. If you're if you're a provider, like I had, even just in some of these conversations, like I would have this conversation and somebody would be like at the bank or at the grocery store, be like, oh my gosh, I have an amazing healthy hair oil. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. This is great. Or other kind of resources and things like that. So knowing like these are some amazing vendors that when you walk in the door, I want to put my money where my mouth is, and if I'm gonna buy a gift for someone, or if I'm gonna go there again, even if you're the most confident person, all of a sudden you're feeling really knocked off your feet, so to speak, knowing what stores that you're gonna walk into, to learn how to draw on your eyebrows, right? And that are gonna have makeup in your color instead of, right? Because I think that's the thing with us, is that we get the twice vulnerability, right? So it's like I'm vulnerable because I have no eyebrows and I don't know how to draw my eyebrows. And then I'm feeling vulnerable because I don't know if you're gonna have other makeup that's in my skin color. Or I don't know if you're gonna not know how to talk to somebody who looks like me. And so finding those kind of spaces is really important.
So you'll be having ongoing events as well.
Ongoing events, and also uplifting some of the events that are coming from some of the other organizations. So right now I'm meeting with a number of the nonprofits, and so that way we can put together a way that that makes it easy for survivors to get linked into care, or linked into services, as they say. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
That's a wrap on another incredible episode of Wrap It Wednesday. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss out on other inspiring conversations and head wrap tutorials. See you soon.